More than 100,000 Americans erased from the payroll ledger. The guillotine wasn't wielded by Beijing, robotics, or migrating factories. It was made in Washington, signed with the heavy hand of Donald Trump on June 4th, a 50% tariff weaponized against aluminum. He called it a shield. In weeks it became a wrecking ball. Plants collapse, contracts evaporate, paychecks stop, frozen in midair. Forget abstractions. This is your mortgage, your safety net, your tomorrow. So why is a so-called America First tariff detonating America's own foundations? Start of March 2025. The Trump administration springs a calculated trap. Canada's broad exemption from U.S. aluminum and steel tariffs is revoked. Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act is armed again. A 25% levy returns. 3 months later, June 4th, the hammer drops. The import tariff doubles, 25% to 50%. Trump thunders on Truth Social, "I will never let American jobs be sold out to foreign interests, 50% tariff effective immediately." All caps, as if volume fixes policy. But this isn't the first time America's trod this ground. Trump rolled out similar tariffs in 2018, under the same Section 232, citing national security. The results? Messy, inconsistent. Some plants sputtered back to life, more shuttered for good under ballooning input costs. Now, 2025, double the muscle, quadruple the risk. The economy is brittle enough that one hard knock reverberates like shattering glass. Reuters reports the new tariffs arrive with no expiry date, until further notice, which in DC terms means possibly forever. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo dodges with delicately coded warnings. Domestic output is good, yes, but don't torch the supply chain or suffocate the industries that depend on cheap inputs. Senate Finance Chair Ron Wyden, a Democrat, echoes her. Even Republican allies in the industrial core, Michigan, Ohio, Texas, start to mutter. J.D. Vance, staunch Trump backer, is caught on a hot mic. "We need to be careful we don't strangle our own supply chains while trying to protect them." Political calculus outshouts economic logic. This tariff is less scalpel, more cudgel. Trump's Phase 2 economic plan aims for Rust Belt votes, not sector-level stability. Loyalty plays well with cameras. On the factory floor, less so. Cue the quiet panic. The Aluminum Association, voice of smelters and users alike, fires back. Yes, shielding domestic aluminum matters, but here's the math. For every job saved in smelting, up to 16 in fabrication, transport, assembly are threatened. That's not collateral damage. That's a massacre among the very workers this policy claims to champion. The ripple is rapid. Home builders, auto suppliers, beer companies, everyone from Boeing to Budweiser raises alarms. The American Beverage Association warns that the price of aluminum cans will skyrocket, pushing up costs on beer, soda, canned food. Wall Street takes notice. Within hours, stocks for aluminum-heavy companies, Ford, GM, Boeing, Ball Corporation, slide 2% to 5%. Bank of America analysts call it a short-term gain, long-term cost bomb. Markets smell the rot. Abroad, U.S. partners reel. Canada, the EU, South Korea, longtime allies, not adversaries, are blindsided. Memories of 2018's trade combat are raw, and whispers of WTO lawsuits surface instantly. Retaliation is all but promised, and trust is shredded in silence. Trump, ever pugnacious, doubles down on the airwaves. Backlash equals validation. If they're screaming, that means we're doing something right. His base hears steel-spined strength. Policy experts hear déjà vu, higher stakes, wider targets. For the American worker, especially in the battered Midwest, the question gnaws, is this protection or sabotage? Consequences don't wait. Just weeks in, the body count starts to tick upward. Alcoa, giant of U.S. aluminum, warns this tariff could erase 20,000 smelting jobs and 80,000 across fabrication, transport, and assembly. 100,000 lost in U.S.-linked industries. Independent analysts back the horror story. These aren't numbers. These are neighborhoods. Your friend's factory job, your cousin's trucking contract, your local hardware store's supply line snapping one by one. The culprit? Input costs now surging. By April 2025, U.S. industrial electricity averaged 8.21 a kWh, up from 7.79 a year earlier. Aluminum smelting is an energy black hole, nearly 14,821 kWh per ton. Meanwhile, Quebec's hydroelectric operators charge as little as 2.48 to 3.94 kWh. That gap isn't embarrassing, it's catastrophic. A U.S. smelter can't compete. It's like running a marathon in cement boots while your rival flies past on a bullet train of cheap power. Aluminum premiums in the Midwest spiked 12%, a crushing jump for any manufacturer.
U.S. buyers watch helplessly as costs leap from 21 CIA to 24 Cs per pound.
They can't absorb it, they can't pass it on. Only one option: cut jobs. Whole lines of workers disappear from Rust Belt payrolls. Truck factories shutter, can plants idle, aerospace suppliers cave. The pain lands across both sides of the border. March 2025. Canadian union leaders start reporting layoffs too, a vicious ricochet. Energy demand sags as heavy industry dials back, turning into a feedback loop of rising power costs. Every kilowatt split among fewer buyers. The U.S. Energy Information Administration calls it a sawtooth pattern. Output down, fixed grid costs up, energy less affordable for everyone. Alcoa CEO Bill Oppinger is blunt. You can't fire up a smelter on mere promises. You need cheap, stable power. U.S. supply contracts, short-term volatile, don't compete with Canada's long locked-in 2-4C kWh hydro deals. No plant bets billions on unstable rates. As Quebec locks in its edge, U.S. facilities stall. Minnesota and Texas mothball plans for new plants. Regional industrial rates leap above 10C kWh, translating to millions more in annual costs. Downstream, it gets bloodier. Metal-intensive sectors in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania announce layoffs and furloughs. April and May, regional manufacturing jobs tank. Soon, the carnage bleeds into local tax rolls, shrivels consumer spending, starves schools and hospitals. A factory shutdown isn't just about the line worker, it's a slow-motion collapse of small-town America. The fallout didn't confine itself to factory floors and local economies, it escalated into a full-blown trade war with Canada. Ottawa moved fast, triggering the World Trade Organization's dispute resolution process on March 5th. Ambassador Nadia Theodore laid it bare. Washington's tariff spree left Canada no choice but to defend its interests. The legal battle was set, but Canada's response went beyond courts. Canadian exporters didn't just sit idle, they pivoted. Redirecting aluminum shipments away from the U.S., they sought refuge in Europe, Asia, and partnerships with Mexico and ASEAN nations. Data reveals a sharp 10-point drop in Canada's export share to the U.S., slinking down to 68% from May 2024 to May 2025, a seismic shift in trade routes shaping global markets. Prime Minister Mark Carney, fresh in office, upped the ante. Ottawa not only threatened retaliation but acted, banning American firms from federal procurement contracts and launching a $1 billion fund to reinforce its own steel and aluminum sectors. Targeted tariffs on U.S. exports such as metals, cars, and spirits followed, adding sting to the diplomatic sparring. Globally, allies watched closely. Australia's Trade Minister Don Farrell publicly condemned the U.S. tariffs as economically reckless, hinting at WTO action. The EU held back but remained ready, shielding its interests behind diplomatic wait times. Japan and South Korea, bruised from previous U.S. tariff rounds, quietly lobbied Washington to reconsider, simultaneously preparing backup plans. Back at home, industry voices rang louder, warning that U.S. protectionism might backfire spectacularly. Canada's clean hydroelectric advantage, slashing power costs by as much as 75%, remained a glaring hurdle for American smelters. The tariffs couldn't offset that gap. U.S. producers lacked the energy contracts and scale to catch up. This wasn't just economics, it was structural disadvantage writ large. The market confirmed it. Aluminum imports from third-party sources like the United Arab Emirates soared, up to 68,560 metric tons in March 2025 from 16,124 a year prior. This surge illustrated U.S. buyers caught in a pincer movement, scrambling amid disrupted North American supplies and prohibitive tariffs. So, what's the path forward? Many experts advocate real investment over tariff walls. Solutions include slashing Canadian aluminum tariffs to 20%, incentivizing recycled and clean aluminum production, and, most critically, building smarter energy infrastructure. Without addressing the underlying cost drivers, tariffs will remain a blunt tool, tilting the playing field, and costly collateral damage continues. The question lingers. Should America double down on raising trade barriers, or pivot toward energy reforms, innovation, and diplomacy that can sustain its industrial base for the long haul? The answer isn't in sloganeering or spikes in tariffs. It's in policies that understand the complexity and interconnectedness of global supply chains and energy economics. The damage is done, but the story isn't over. For now, millions watch as policy and politics collide with livelihoods and futures. The tariff earthquake shakes the Rust Belt and reverberates far beyond. What's next rests on whether leadership chooses to build bridges or walls, and who will bear the cost.